Welcome to episode 9. In this episode, I interview Michael Jang, the founder of Fitscovery. We deep dive into the life of a startup founder, specifically the part that you don't see on social media. Michael talks through his usual daily routine and some of the challenges that he has to overcome on a daily basis. It's not easy at all, and most certainly not all glamour. So, if you've ever wondered what it's really like to be a startup founder, then this episode is for you. Enjoy, everyone.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. My internet gave out for a few minutes, but we're back, and we were talking about um, the challenges that founders normally face, and how to overcome them, and how to, especially on the emotional, mental side. And Mike, you were talking about how sometimes the feedback that you're getting from your clients, or even when you look at the product yourself, you feel like it's shit, right? And that's something that obviously, as the owner and the founder, you have to kind of overcome yourself and kind of figure out a way so that you can kind of market it still. I mean, you still have to believe in your product regardless of uh, how much you're unsatisfied with it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Wait, hold on one second. Okay. Absolutely. One thing is that one thing is with most with all the startup founders that I know that I've met and I talked to, they all thought that the early stage of their product, the early stage version of their product was a poor representation of what they have in their heads, which I think is natural. It should be natural, and that should be the way that your product develops. I think we often think that to do a startup company, you have to make sure that everything's right, everything's polished, everything looks great, that everything's running on track before you're ready to launch the product. The new, and maybe that was the way that it used to be before, and especially with big companies. If you're a big company and you're launching out a product, it should be like pretty usable. But the new way of thinking about it, the new agile development is sort of like launch a very poor version of what you create, a very poor version of what you're looking to create, and do little by little by little. So basically, if you're looking to invent a car, instead of making sure that it has all doors, all the wheels, all the engines, and everything, you first look at simply what is the problem that you're trying to solve. We're trying to get people from A to B. What's the easiest, simplest product you can make? Probably a skateboard. And like a skateboard would be your V1 of the product, right? But if in your head you think that what you want is a car. Oh, I want to have automated, have an engine, and I want to have air conditioning and music, whatever. And like this skateboard has nothing, so you feel like you created a very terrible version of the product. But you have to start with that terrible version, from a skateboard into a bicycle, into a motorcycle, into a shitty car, and then into a Lamborghini.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that what you said actually brings to mind what Netflix went through. I was listening to a podcast of how Netflix started, and the story was like they spent 2 weeks creating a prototype. Like they would make sure all of the links were working, all of the graphics were up to speed, and then they would test it and find that it's not working, and then they just wasted 2 weeks, right? And so they made a decision that they were gonna improve the amount of time that they like reduce significantly the amount of time that they took to like put out a prototype, and they got it down to a week, and then eventually they got it down to every other day they would come up with a test, and at some point they were able to get it to 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 tests every day, and then and it would suck, like completely suck, right? Like the links would be broken, the everything was misspelled. But what they found
Yeah.
was the results and the insights that they got from the prototype, regardless of how well made it was, is everything that they needed. It was all the same, everything that they needed to build out a better version of the product, right? And so, I think that's a concept of design thinking where you just iterate and then come back, iterate, come back, and just make be as fast as possible, as agile as possible, like you said.
Yeah.
One follow up question to that is the is the reason why you feel, or maybe even the clients feel, that it sucks is because of how far it is from the original vision that you had, or is it that because that your vision was what actually sucks and you have to change your vision, or maybe a combination of both?
I mean, it's a combination of both, and I would say it varies depending. It highly varies depending on the industry, the product, and what we're trying to, and like what kind of field you're in, right? For example, if you're going to like government contracts and your startup is about like making new weapon systems for like the government, that cannot suck to begin with. Like that needs to be like 99% like where you want it to be before you get there, right? Things that are consumer products, especially when there are many consumers, it's okay to have your first iteration to suck. So like if you're trying to, if what you're creating is I don't know, a hamburger, which there's a huge market for people lining up for hamburgers. It's okay for your first few hamburgers to kind of suck, like actually kind of suck. If you're creating a tech product that serves a large number of customers, it's okay for your few iterations at the beginning to suck. But that being said, there are a few things that absolutely cannot suck. So, for example, one of my friend was the founder of CoinsBH, and that's people's money that they're working with, right? System downtime, security, those are things that absolutely cannot suck. So I would be answering very broadly if I can say that, like, oh, it's okay if your system sucks to begin with, because depending on the context of what you're working with and depending on the industry, there are definitely some industries in which it's okay to suck. Hamburgers, yeah, it's fine if it sucks the first few. Security, money, things like that, like
Safety.
Safety, you need to get your first your first product to be on point before you launch.
That's where testing it in a split testing environment, like a controlled environment, comes in. Or maybe, like, I think that one thing also would be like with the pandemic, like vaccines, they need to work right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right before you even.
Of course, pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
Yeah, and they even launched it with like some of those vaccines that I saw were like 80% effectiveness, and like, dude, you're playing with 20% of the people that you're rolling this out to, right? So that's pretty scary stuff. Yeah.
So, I mean, this goes a little bit into like some economic concepts. There's a concept called like Porter's five forces, and it talks about the five forces that impact an industry. And like the forces are like consumer forces, the competitor forces, supplier, vendors. All of there are various forces that impact your industry, and depending on the industry that you have to calibrate what is like how do you navigate within this industry. The advice that I give within fitness technology is going to be vastly different than the type of advice that I would do if I were in like pharmaceutical or in like biotech or anything like that.
Got it. And how much of external forces would you allow? Like, let me phrase this much better. So I'm sure you've had to make a few adjustments to what you had originally planned for your company, right? How much of that would you accept as a change to your from your original vision, which is coming from outside forces? You know what I mean? Like, you're getting feedback from clients or investors or whatever. How much of that should you take into consideration and like factor into the changes into your vision?
I would say with the caveat, my answer would be like 90% or to 100%. Your product is not. It should not just be based on your product. A unless you are like a super genius, unless you're like Steve Jobs who can envision a future that other people can't envision, and you just see a brilliant creative idea that other people can't, unless you're like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, or like Tesla or whatever, who can create something new that other people can't imagine, and you think that your idea is better than anybody else can even think of, then you should believe in yourself. But in many, many other cases, 99.999% of the time, you're not that smart. And I don't believe myself to be that smart. And you have to take the feedback that other people are given. And I think this also goes beyond entrepreneurship. This goes to like how you are as a person, right? So even if we take the context out of entrepreneurship, if somebody tells you, hey, John, this is a problem that I see all the time with you. You often like you don't make you don't spend your money wisely. If it's just like one or two people who say that, you can kind of like, okay. But if your mom says that, your dad says that, all your closest friends are saying that, your wife is saying that, then it's like, okay. Instead of me being like a stubborn, like very stubborn and thinking I'm right all the time, maybe they got a point there, and maybe this is something that I do have to address. So your product is not there for yourself. Your product is there for the audience. Assuming that you're creating for like to earn money, to get wide adoption, you're making it for people who would actually use it, right? So find the criticism that people tell you, prioritize what's important, and work on what's important based on the things that people tell you. So people are always going to have their ideas. There's going to be hundreds of ideas about what your product can do, and obviously you can't work on all 100 of them. So you prioritize what are the most common ones, what are the big ones with the biggest drivers, what are the ones that you can actually create, and you work on those.
Got it. And I think what that would mean is, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a certain level of self-awareness and humility and flexibility, so that you're able to correctly assess who you are as a person and your product. And because that's your baby, right? So there's some form of emotional attachment to people saying bad things about what you just built. And without that level of flexibility, if you let pride get in the way, then it's probably going to be hard to make adjustments. And I think the market would probably crush you right at that point, because that's to your point.
Mentality is a huge thing with startup founders. You need to have the right mentality. You need to have the right stability. You need to have the right emotional management, so that you can accurately, so that you don't go off the rails anytime there's a failure or customer complaining.
Yeah, and that brings me to a very good segue to my next. It's a very good segue to my next question. And what it is how did you prepare yourself, like emotionally, mentally, to be a startup founder? Given, like, were you already aware of what challenges you would be facing, or did you just get into that while you were driving the car, so to speak, right? And then train yourself to adjust to that situation as it was happening?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't think that kind of mindset and self-awareness is exclusive to startup founders. I think having mental tenacity, being self-aware, being able to push through challenges, being able to recognize where your own flaws are and correct upon those. If you want to succeed in almost any industry, whether it is like sports or traditional industry, or like or being a good doctor, or in startup, you should have those character traits. And in fact, I actually think character traits are more important than intelligence when it comes to highly successful people. And actually, sorry, it's not just like I think that. It's been proven that the most successful people are not simply the most highest IQ. They are a combination of having decently high IQ with also a very strong EQ. So the most successful people have the IQ of somewhere between 120 to 140. Not the ones who have like 200 IQ. There's people who have like 200 IQ, and they just live on a farm because, like, if you think about people who you think is a stupid person and how annoying you might get, like, oh my goodness, this person is so stupid. How can that guy be so stupid? That's how these like super intelligent people think of
see
us.
everyone.
Right? Like
yeah, that's how you see everyone.
So stupid, right? So when those people are super intelligent, but they aren't able to connect with them on an EQ level, they're not able to accept their flaws because they think, oh, I'm smarter than everyone else. So anyone who disagrees with me, F that. They become very isolated. So I think a big part of success is combining adequate intelligence with a large amount of self-awareness, tenacity, and mental toughness. And I don't think that is specific to the startup entrepreneur life. So when you ask about like, did I create that in preparation for my startup? No. I think everybody should start developing those as young as 16 or 18. By the time you finish high school, you should be like a full functioning adult that you're not letting your emotions drive you all over the place. That being said, I do think very few people actually do have the self-awareness, and it's also a ongoing journey. Nobody will ever, like, I still see parts where I'm like, oh, I was kind of overly cocky with that. Ooh, I think I overplayed my hand for that, right? It's always a calibration that you get better and better with, but it is something that you need to realize that you need to work on yourself as early as 16 years old, that you are an imperfect person and you always need improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what you said, having that feedback loop is important. Like sometimes you have blinders on where you think you're so good at something, and then you hear people say other things about, say their own observations, and you kind of have to like take that into consideration, right? So follow up to that, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Like you have to work on yourself. You get to a point where you're emotionally, intellectually, and maybe you have the right experience for you to be able to be successful as a startup founder. Like, what's a good test for someone who's never worked on that? Like, is an employee right now and is thinking about, like, I want to start a business in maybe 1 to 5 years. Like, what's a good test so that I would know that I have those characteristics to deal with the challenges that come with being a founder?
Yeah, this is not my test, but this is something that I read elsewhere, that the difference of what separates Olympic athletes and just good athletes is not their athletic ability. There are a lot of people who are simply like athletically talented and well built. The difference between the Olympic athletes is that they love what they do, and because they love what they do it day in and day out. And it's not about the success. It's not about the success. It's not about the gold medals. It's not about the achievements or the accolades. They do it for the love of the sport. They do it for the art of the sport, to refine their talents of the sport. And in doing that, they don't care if it's raining outside. They don't care if it's sore. They don't care if they lost the previous match. They do it because they feel that urge, and they can endure all the losses that come into their way. And whether it's about a sports athlete, like an entertainer or startup, a test to see whether or not you're ready is, can you endure 6 months of people battling at you, telling you that like this isn't enough, that like what you have isn't ready for the market, and you're not going to make it. Are you financially able to do that? Are you mentally able to do that? And do you have not only like, are you firm enough in your own resolve? Do you actually have a viable solution that can be that can be ready, right? Because you also don't want to be so stubborn. They want, and I can see something that they don't see. You also want to avoid that pitfall, right? So it's finding the right balance of, do you have a viable business solution, and are you able to endure criticisms for like a harsh criticism for like 6 months straight without earning any money? Somebody else said, I think it was Jim Carrey, I forgot who, but they were giving advice on how can I be, what should I do to become a comedian or something like that. And Jim Carrey's advice is, don't be a comedian. And the guy's like, what? That's your advice? Don't be a comedian? And Jim Carrey says, yeah, because if my advice to tell you to not be a comedian is enough to deter you from being a comedian, you never would have made it anyways. So if you have the resolve to become a comedian, even though I'm telling you not to become a comedian, then maybe you have a chance at making it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think what you're saying, what I'm getting from what you're saying is that you have to believe in your ability enough that no matter what anyone says about your ability and your vision and your goal, it won't change your mind. And if someone can change your mind, then most likely you don't believe in it strong enough, right?
I would say that with a caveat, again, a big caveat, because yes, you have to have firm belief in yourself, because if you don't have belief in yourself, who's going to have belief in you, right? How do you expect investors to believe in you? How do you expect your co-founder to believe in you? How do you expect your customers to believe in you? I would say that with a caveat as well, because what you believe in, you better risk it that you're right. Because many times you might be wrong. And there are also many people out there who simply believes in a false sense of something that's wrong. And they live their life based on a false belief. And they get trapped in that. So you do have to firmly believe in it. But the risk is, if you believe in something that's wrong, then you're wasting away your life.
And I think that's where what you were saying earlier, where you have to keep testing it and iterating on it so that you know as early as possible if what you truly believe in is right or wrong, right? I mean, if you you don't do anything, just believe in it and don't test your hypotheses, then you're never going to know what's true and what the market will see.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of the Airbnb story, that the initial investor, Y Combinator investors for Airbnb, they didn't believe in them. They didn't believe in that their core product, right? And to be fair, like, I think that's a reasonable evaluation. Back in 2012, when Airbnb was not a thing, it's like, wait, you're just gonna have random people stay at your house? What about all this security risk and everything? And what, people are just gonna randomly open up their house for random people to come in? How many people are willing to do that? Because I'm not willing to open up my house, right? But then they believed in their vision. They believed in they believed it hard enough that they actually got traction, and their traction numbers showed, and their investors started believing in them. That's an example of something that did work out, but there are countless examples of people overly believing themselves and creating a shitty product. And it's just like, what, really? Like, this is what you thought of? I also remember watching one on Shark Tank where it was like, this guy really believed in something. He was gonna install a Bluetooth microphone inside your ear, like surgically install the Bluetooth inside your ear. And all the other investors are like, what the F? Like, you are crazy. And his response was, you're all crazy. You don't believe in it. Watch me make $1 billion. You're gonna be sorry that you didn't sit in, right? So that's one example in which I think he's being delusional. Who knows? He might prove me wrong. But
there's a fine line between being delusional and being a genius, right? Like, for every Airbnb, there's probably 100 blue chip surgeries out there.
Yes, that's also
right?
true. So you have to
So
believe in yourself, but there's also a low chance that you're gonna make it anyways.
yeah, I was listening to a podcast too from I don't know if you've listened to this podcast before, but it's How We Built This from Guy Raz.
Yeah.
So he was interviewing the guys who made Riot Games, and towards the end of the interview, they were talking about like, was it luck or hard work that got you where you are today? And you know what's
Ah,
funny is their answer was it's luck, right? Like there's so many variables that had to fall into place, and the probability of success was so low that if any of those variables didn't happen the way they happened, then they would have failed. Like so, yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow if you're thinking about becoming a founder. If you look at those numbers in that sense, right? So that's where the belief
yeah. I mean,
probably
like
has to be strong enough. Yeah.
even even for our employees and my co-founder and our investors, I tell them very straight up, look, I'll be honest with you. I give our startup at a 10% chance at success. So do not throw your life away at our startup if like you need this money. Do not invest your money in our startup if like this is something you absolutely need. And we've turned away investors because we said like, if you're looking for the next Uber, we hope to be, but there's a very low chance that we can actually be. So if you need this money, hold on to this money. But we believe in our vision. I believe in what we're trying to do. I think there is a viable business case for what we're looking to build. But even with all the right ideas, all the right plans, all the right framework, there needs to be a lot of luck that contributes to it as well. So I want you to be a part of our journey with your eyes wide open.
Yeah, that's very practical and makes a lot of sense. Um, what is the like for your vision of what Fitzcovery is going to be like? What is the best case scenario? What's it going to be like in 10 years if everything goes according to plan? Like, what would it look like?
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario is we make the next Airbnb of fitness. We anybody who's looking for any fitness options, they look on Fitzcovery. If they want to find a personal trainer, they look on Fitzcovery. If they want to book a gym, they go on Fitzcovery. If they want to sign up for an online program, they go on Fitzcovery. Even if they want to do a workout video online, instead of going to YouTube, they go to Fitzcovery because Fitzcovery is going to have free workout videos as well as paid workout videos. We're going to have programs, we're going to have trainers, all onto one single place platform. And ultimately, I believe if all of our cards play right, we could be bigger than Airbnb. Because if we think about the average amount of money that a person typically spends on fitness versus the average amount of money people spend on travel and hotel accommodations, people spend more on average per month on fitness than they would on hotel accommodations.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, fitness is a year-round thing, whereas vacation probably once or twice a year, if any, especially around
Yeah.
the pandemic. Um, does your vision include like anyone can become a fitness instructor? Like you, if you feel like you're fit and you want to put your content out there, like similar to what YouTube's doing, where I want to. I want to share my fitness routine, and I want to be considered the trainer.
Kind of, kind of. I would say that I say kind of with a caveat. In the same way that like anyone can put their houses on Airbnb, but if you have like a shitty house, it's going to be ranked all the way to the bottom, right? Anybody can put their products on Shopify, but if you have shitty products, like nobody's going to like really buy your things. So yes, we're going to have like anybody can put their services on on Fitzcovery, but we're also gonna have evaluations on how whether you're certified, whether you're a good coach, what your customer reviews say about you. And if you're a good coach, you have good certification and you have a lot of reviews, you're gonna be ranked towards the top. If you are a completely newbie coach, it doesn't really like look like what you're doing, you can still put your platform on, but we're not gonna rank you super high. And we're not going to risk our consumers to see people who are shitty. We are going to give recommendations tailored to people whom we trust.
Yeah,
Very much like Airbnb.
yeah. And they probably have like labels to like what's the Airbnb label where a great
Verified.
host, like a great host,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like yeah. Also maybe like a
Yeah.
super trainer or
Yeah, Superhost, I think.
super
I think
Superhost is the Airbnb, but like for Fit Discovery, Super Fit or I don't
yeah,
know,
Super Train or something like that.
Super Trainer. Yeah. Does that put you in competition with any of the big brands right now? Like, does that put you in direct competition with some of the business of YouTube, maybe, or not really? What's your thought on
I
that?
don't think in direct competition. For example, there are things like ClassPass that people use, or there are things like, I guess ClassPass is what a lot of people think when they think of fitness discovery. But if you think about ClassPass, like personal trainers can't just sign up to be on the ClassPass platform, right? Me as a personal trainer, I can't just say like, oh, I want to create my business on ClassPass. You can't do that. You can't do that on FitDiscovery. For any personal trainers out there, for any online trainers out there, if they want to create an online business, if they want to create their own website, if they want to create on-demand workout videos, they can create that on FitDiscovery. ClassPass is more like a price bundling package. It serves a value, and it serves a different value from us. So I don't see them as competitors. I can't even see them as potential collaborations down the line. I don't think we're ready yet for potential collaboration with them. But right now, like the people who sign up for ClassPass, or it's actually the gyms that sign up for ClassPass, they're looking to leverage ClassPass as another way of getting more customers through the door. But those gyms, they have their own website, and they create their own website through other means, through like Squarespace, Wix, or they hire a developer to make their website. What we look to compete with are actually more like there's no actual company right now who does it, because the way that a lot of personal trainers manage their customers is simply through Instagram. They simply post a photo on Instagram and say like, oh, look at my abs, and like come join me for a workout. I have a workout Tuesday at 7 p.m. Send me a DM, right? What we look to do is automate this process.
Some trainers even sign up for gym. I don't know if it's the same in the US or maybe in Japan, but a lot of the trainers that I know here in the Philippines, they would sign up for multiple gym memberships, right? So they would be members of certain gyms, and they would hit up, like, just chat up other gym goers and kind of get clients through that means, right? Like through that man. So it's very analog, it's very old school, but I think what you would be offering would be a very big step up from how it's currently being done here.
Yeah, instead of paying for all those gym membership, instead of going to all the gyms and talking to people, publish a free online website. It's like Zomato, right? If you have Zomato and you want to publish your food, your restaurant, publish it on Zomato and get a lot of customers easily. Hold on, let me move out of this location. I think they're setting up something here. Give me a moment.
No worries, man.
So we also moved out to La Union to get some work done.
Yeah, so you moved to La Union after the pandemic hit, right? Or was it before the pandemic?
After the pandemic hit. So I mean, I also think so. We often hear about startup pivots, right? We hear about startup pivots where things aren't working out for you, so you have to change things up, and this kind of goes back to what we said before about like listening to our customers, or like when do you make a change, when do you shift things based on your understanding. So for us, moving to La Union was actually a lifestyle shift. It was actually a change in. Sorry, I still doesn't charge. Was a lifestyle change because like living in Manila, I wasn't having fun anymore. I wasn't seeing my friends. I wasn't doing anything. And these are supposed to be the best years of our lives, right? We're supposed to be fully enjoying our lives right now. And I fully understand why we have to stay home and obviously to be safe. But at the same time, you have the capacity to choose what you want in your life. You have the capacity to take action on changing things around. And in all honesty, I actually don't understand why many people don't take action to change up their lives. For example, for the pandemic, most people, a lot of people that I know, granted, not everybody, but like I would say like 50% of my friends, they have the financial stability to live here. They have the financial, most of their jobs are online. And the rent here is cheaper than the rent back in Manila. And the food here is cheaper than the food back in Manila. And their job is online anyways. And there's no cases of COVID here. So I honestly don't know why more people aren't out here. Obviously, I don't think that's something that 100% of the population should do. But I'm surprised that a lot of people are just like stuck on the way that they're used to doing things. A lot of people are stuck in all their old patterns. They don't think of new ways. They don't think of new ideas and to change a new idea. So the thought to like, oh, move out to the beach town, ooh, that looks so daunting, and they think of all the reasons like they can't do it. Oh man, it's gonna be so hard. Oh, I have to drive all this way. I have to get my PCR test and blah blah blah. But to take the actual action of doing something is not that hard, and the payoff can be quite rewarding. So I see like me moving out here to La Union, to the beachside, to like this beautiful view, to working with this beautiful view.
That is amazing, man.
This is something in which like I honestly think like 50% of my friends can do, and I would say of the people who are like 25 to 35, single, doesn't have major obligations, have online jobs, have a decent amount of savings, can do. They don't even need a lot of savings. I would say like just like 50,000 pesos of savings. That's enough.
Yeah, for a down payment or something for whatever you're going to be renting there, right? That's
You don't
pretty
even
cool.
need, like, the rent can be like 8,000 pesos a month, realistically.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, there really are a lot of people who are held back by, like what you said, limiting beliefs, right? Like from their childhood, from what their parents say about them, their environment growing up. And that is actually what I'm trying to address with this podcast. So I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I do have two questions left, and then I can let you enjoy your beautiful view. And I always take a look at your stories on Facebook. I'm always so jealous of how much fun you guys are having there, surfing all day and working. Yeah, my last two questions do you have, the first one is, do you have any regrets knowing what you know now, and anything that you would have changed from what you did in the past to get to where you are now, if you had a chance?
I mean, it's a weird question because like some people say like, oh, I don't have any regrets because the past of who I am made me who I am now, and if I didn't do things before, then I wouldn't have this life now. I personally don't like that answer. I think it's a little bit overly cheesy. Um, I mean, do I have regrets? Yes, definitely. There are things that I could have done better in the past. And to be honest, I think like people who say they don't have any regrets sometimes don't have enough reflection on their past, to like really understand the implications of what they've done, and how they could have been better. I think I am a pretty reflective person, so I do think back on my past and all the things I could have done better in the past. At the same time, I don't beat myself up over it. You know, you always, like, for me, I have regrets, but like no, like knowing that I could have done things better isn't a limiting factor on me. That doesn't make me feel like, oh man, I'm so stupid. Like, you're such a dumbass. Well, like, you can't do anything right. You see all the times you've done things wrong in the past, right? Like an easy, like a simple example would be like investments, right? To take emotions out of it, to talk about like a stockbroker or like a investment, like a day trader, right? a person can be making a shit ton of money and can be like very successful, but realistically, they probably made like 20% bad investment, 30% bad investment. If your portfolio is 70% good investment, that's amazing. That's an amazing portfolio. Do you regret the 20% bad investments? Yeah, you do. You wish you didn't put it there. You wish you put it somewhere else so you can earn more money. But overall, when you look at your whole portfolio, it's like it's a good portfolio. Like you did good for yourself. So that's how I look at my overall life. Do I wish I did things better in the past? Yeah, of course. I wish I took school more seriously when I was a child. I wish I studied more computer science. There are a lot of things that I wish I could have done better. But it doesn't become like I don't focus on those negative things, right? I acknowledge those things. I acknowledge my downfalls, my weaknesses, my errors when they have happened, but they don't control my overall state.
Yeah, I agree with that. That makes so much sense to me. I think from what I'm getting from what you're saying is you look back on the past and you look at your mistakes. But what matters is the lens that you look at them from, right, or with. Meaning, like, what's your intention in looking back at your past? Is it because you want to learn, you want to, prevent the same mistakes from happening again and become a better person from them, or do you want to beat yourself up and put yourself down? So I think those two mindsets are vastly different when looking at what you did in the past, and one thing would lead to you becoming a better person, the other would lead to you just eating away at your confidence and your self-worth, right? So that makes a lot of sense to me.
A big theme throughout this talk today was about mindset, right? Having the right mindset, having the right lens in which you evaluate yourself, how you evaluate your business, having a realistic view of where you need to believe in yourself, where you need to like doubt yourself, where you need to adjust yourself, where you have to acknowledge, oh shit, I'm doing something wrong, or like, oh shit, like this is a bad feature that I need to fix, or this is a bad aspect of myself that I need to fix, and where you need to confidently believe in yourself that even though other people don't believe in it, I still believe in it, and I will make them see. All of that being said, there's no like easy answer to it. It's a judgment call, and the hard thing is figuring out how to calibrate that mindset, so that you can see your past mistakes in a healthy way. Figure out how to calibrate your mindset such that you believe in yourself to the point where you're confident, but your confidence doesn't blind you from your mistakes. And there's so many ways to go wrong on your mindset. Hello.
There you are. Thought I lost you.
So one of the annoying things is out here is getting the internet right and getting the tech stuff to work.
Does it happen often? Like how often does it happen? Like multiple times a day?
More than I would want it to be. Yeah.
All right. No worries, man. I can just edit out the stuff that where we lost each other. But yeah, I was gonna say you wrapped that up real nicely. Like it was a perfect summary of the entire conversation so far. So yes, just to wrap it up, my last question. What would be your advice to everyone that's listening to this podcast, who's thinking of becoming a startup founder and are currently in the process of maybe they're just like me who are paralyzed through analysis or have a lot of doubts, fears, anxiety? What's your advice to them to get them started?
For me, what I believe is when you find the right idea, your doubts and your fears will go away. Well, sorry, not to say that. Your doubts and your fears will never go away, but they will seem less important. And like a parallel example of that might be that for taking out the context of startup, but in like a relationship, right? That if you, sometimes you're like afraid to ask a girl out, or you're afraid to start dating a girl, or you're for some guys you're afraid to get married for one reason or another. For the right person, you will for the right person, and that like everything makes sense with that person, those fears would subside. Those fears will still be there, but they take a backseat. So I would say that you do need to think deeply through your idea, deeply through what you want to do. And it's not, you shouldn't pursue the startup journey because you want to be a startup founder. Is my belief. I'm also could be wrong about this. My belief is you become a startup person because you have an idea that you firmly believe in, and an idea that's well thought out, and this is something that you fully want to pursue. I see a lot of people. The reason that they want to be a startup founder is not because they fall in love with the idea, but they fall in love with the fact that this entrepreneur who flies helicopters all the time. That's the wrong mentality to get into a startup founder. If you have that mentality that you want to do it, that's great. That's maybe half the battle. The other half is you do need a solid idea that that you want to pursue that idea even without the helicopters, even without the glamour, even without the recognition. And you need to marry those two. You need to marry that you have the right idea that you want to pursue, not just like an idea that you're passionate about, an idea that that actually has business value, with the right kind of type of attitude, the right type of mentality, the right type of the right stage in life. And once you marry the two, then I would suggest that's when you have a good chance at being successful in your startup. If you have one or the other without both, to be honest, I think it's a hard journey. And again, goes back to the, if my advice of telling you that's a hard journey is enough to deter you away, better that you stay away, because you're gonna face way worse than my criticisms.
Yeah, yeah. Don't take my word for it, right? So, and and yeah, I completely agree with that. And it sounds to me like, if I were like, as someone who also um, is very hesitant and has a lot of fear, it sounds like what you're telling me, when what you're speaking, what I'm hearing you say to me personally when I hear what you said, is that I need to really do a lot of self reflection and make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons, and that I believe in it, and that I have the right resolve to get things done. And there's like, I do my due diligence, right, as far as the business standpoint is concerned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, John, like, throughout this conversation, it's obvious that you read up a lot about this, and you know a lot of the frameworks, a lot of the theological things of what to do, right? Um, and it sounds to me like you're not fully applying the things that you've learned. So it's a difference of like, if I'm watching a ballerina and like learning, okay, this is a ballerina, this is how you spin, and this is how you should put your arms, and just learning through the concept of it, but I don't actually apply the concept of it. It's very different. It's different if I can like say this is how a ballerina should spin versus practicing the actual thing, right? Like John, you know these things, and I would recommend for you or people like you who like knows these things but haven't applied. You don't have to jump in cold water. You don't have to go all full out, right? You can apply little bit. You don't have to create the biggest, like a huge tech startup and get funding. You can apply some tiny thing. Like one idea that I had was like make panda ball ice creams, where it was
And the ball
where
ice
it's
cream.
like a circle ice cream, like a vanilla ice cream with like chocolate panda designs on it to make it look like a panda ball. And like, oh, that's cute. That's not gonna break the bank. That's something that you can dabble with, right?
Yeah.
So, so you don't have to go all in. You can just dabble a little bit.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And I will. I'll take your advice. I'll find the least, uh, the smallest version of my idea, and the least resource intensive, and just give it a shot, right? Just take action. Appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you, Mike, for being here today. One last thing is, if the people listening here want to support you or follow you on social media, or whatever, follow Fitscovery and support Fitscovery, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, sure. So my personal Instagram is at MikeJang8, MikeJiang, and the number 8. Fitscovery's Instagram is fitscovery.co. Yeah, you can find that both on Instagram and Facebook. Our username for MikeJang8 and fitscovery.co is the same on both Instagram and Facebook. And for any online trainers, personal trainers that's looking to create their own online business, Discovery basically makes that really easy for you, right? So if you're an entrepreneur in the fitness world and you want to create your own online business, create your own online workout videos, you can actually just head over to fitscovery.com and sign up and create your own profile.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for everything that you shared today, for sharing your experience, your stories, your insights, your wisdom. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best. I wish Fitscovery the best. Airbnb for fitness. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, cool. Thanks, Mike. Have a good one.